Kyrsten Sinema declares herself an independent. Big deal. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Last week, after Herschel Walker lost his Georgia runoff, Senator Kyrsten Sinema went from D, Arizona to I, Arizona. I for independent. Before the week ended, she made clear that she would still caucus with the Democrats, not with Republicans. Nor does she try to persuade more senators to disaffect from either party and form an independent caucus. So, her move will not affect Democratic control of the Senate. Charles M. Schumer remains majority leader, and Vice President Harris might still not need to attend the Senate to break ties. So why did Kyrsten Sinema do this? I think she did this out of desperation. Before I break down why I think that, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which depicts Klaus Schwab saying, "We have ways, we have ways." I bring him in because part of this concerns the Democratic or uni-party establishment, which is beholden to that man, but only part, and maybe even a minute part. One more thing, if you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see that little icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click on that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now, before we jump into today's subject, I need to give you an update on the Twitter files and tell you why I am not talking about them today. I am not talking about them because, for reasons of her own, which she has not yet revealed to anyone, reporter Barry Weiss did not release part 3 of the Trump removal Twitter file subset last night. Speculation is already rife. Is she a Clinton side or Arkin side? Did she discover another mole, someone Jim Baker recruited and left behind? Discussion under the Twitter Files 5 hashtag took place in a Twitter Space, which is a sound-only conference on Twitter itself. But that discussion did not cover the removal of Trump, nor say anything about when that installment will appear. Thus far, her most recent tweet is a retweet of Michael Schellenberger's Saturday night thread showing how Twitter changed its rules as it went. I'm still watching her Twitter feed like a hawk, and also those of Mr. Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, and Elon Musk, and the Twitter Files 5 hashtag. Now, on to Kyrsten Sinema. The best indication of where Kyrsten Sinema stands and why she did what she did lies on her Twitter feed. I have links in the description to the first and third tweets on a short thread she left on December 9th on why she left the Democratic Party. She spoke of a broken partisan system in Washington and talked about having worked with senators from both parties and, quote, forged consensus on successful laws helping everyday Arizonans build better lives for themselves and their families, close quote. Remember that part about families, because I'm going to describe a recent vote of hers that I find anything but family friendly. She also said that becoming independent would not change her work in the Senate. Last of all, she linked to her piece in the Arizona Republic explaining her reasons in greater detail. I've left that link in the description also. She observes correctly that the two parties have moved far enough apart that little common ground remains. Probably none. I'll talk about that again at the end. She then insists that she splits the difference between the two. But does she? Domenico Montanaro of National Public Radio would disagree. I've left a link in the description to his piece disputing that, and also to a piece by Rebecca Cohen of Business Insider, though the link comes through from Yahoo Sports, recalling a distinctly partisan moment in Sinema's past. When Senator Joseph Lieberman of Connecticut, then still a Democrat, was trying to court Republican voters in a run for president in 2004, she, then a social worker, let him have it between the eyes. Quote, "He is a shame to Democrats. I don't even know why he's running. He seems to want to get Republicans voting for him. What kind of strategy is that?" Unquote, Kyrsten Sinema. The main issue was the war in Iraq, which Lieberman supported. George W. Bush was waging it, and anti-war sentiment was then the in thing for Democrats. More recently, she pretended to sign on to the massive infrastructure bill from the Biden White House. But when the time came to change the Senate's rules, to let it go to debate with 50 votes plus Harris, she balked. Did she really value the traditions of the Senate more than that bill? Or did she not support that bill at all and was only pretending to support it? But don't get the idea that she was any kind of moderate. She voted for the Disrespect for Marriage Act and hails it in her Twitter feed. The day before her independent announcement, she even said on Twitter that alternative lifestyles were the real normal. Don't just take my word for it, take hers. I've left a link in the description to her tweet saying just that, in language that, while not exactly profane, is still of a caliber that I would rather not repeat. I'll just say this. Maybe she doesn't realize that when she says that alternative lifestyles are normal, she is really saying that traditional orientations are not normal. What does she know about the history of human lifestyle choices that others don't? But I might as well ask that of Republicans who supported that bill along with her. So let that pass today. The larger point is that she is still as leftist as ever, but she has never been fully simpatico with the permanent political class. When she organized that anti-war protest, she was not an elected official. We now know that the war in Iraq was an establishment project, but we also know that the Democrats played the perfect part of controlled opposition to that war. Do you remember my telling you all about Kabuki Theater? I told you about that last week when I discussed Jim Baker getting the axe from Twitter. Now is as good a time as any to discuss why Kyrsten Sinema would bother saying I am not a Democrat anymore. But first, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You're not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities that company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Kyrsten Sinema has 3 reasons to call herself independent now. First, she might have strained her relations with the Democratic Party to the breaking point. That monkey wrench she threw into the gears of the Build Back Better bill must still rankle with leader Schumer. Let me tell you something. They would surely rankle with me if I were as much of a communist as is leader Schumer. I'd summon her to my office, read her the Riot Act, maybe remind her of her telling Joe Lieberman that he was ashamed of Democrats, and ask whether those words apply to her today. But then again, I'm not a communist, nor even a senator. But we have all had an opportunity to observe that Senate leaders are known to damn senators facing re-election or primarying with faint praise. Witness the other leader, Mitch McConnell, letting Democrats win at last midterms, including Sinema's Senate colleague, Mark Kelly, and for that matter, Raphael Warnock. I wouldn't put it past Leader Schumer to pull a stunt like that when Sinema runs for re-election in 2024, and no doubt Kyrsten Sinema has reached the same conclusion. Second, being in either major party means paying caucus dues. Caucus dues in the House and Senate amount to a member's annual salary. That money must come from somewhere, and it comes from lobbyists. And usually corporate lobbyists are the only ones who can afford to replenish a member's full annual salary, whether they act alone or in collaboration. A woman like Kyrsten Sinema no doubt thinks corporate lobbyists are made of the same awful substance with which Jack London famously said that God made rattlesnakes, toads, vampires, and strikebreakers. So she would do anything to get shut of them. That would include resigning from the Democratic caucus so that she could get out of paying caucus dues. But her third reason might now be more pressing. The Arizona Secretary of State actually threatened members of a county board of supervisors with arrest if they did not certify her election as governor. Kari Lake, her opponent, is now suing to overturn that result. A lawsuit means pretrial discovery and nasty publicity for the Democratic brand. Kyrsten Sinema might not be so willing to insist that Katie Hobbs won fair and square. Maybe she knows or worries that Kari Lake will win her case. Such an outcome would redound to the discredit of Democrats all over Arizona. And because those Democrats are loyal to an establishment that has done her no favors lately and might be looking to do her a mischief, Kyrsten Sinema might have decided to break with that establishment publicly, aggressively, and now. Kabuki theater? Oh, most certainly, except for that part of saving herself caucus dues. That's how they play the game. And timing, the key timing event is not Herschel Walker losing that runoff. It is Katie Hobbs certifying her own election and Kari Lake telling her, I'll see you in H-E double hockey sticks, court. Now, is this going to help Kyrsten Sinema? Again, Domenico Montanaro says no. She'll still lose. To begin with, he cites this observation from the Pew Research Center. Quote, 5 decades ago, 144 House Republicans were less conservative than the most conservative Democrat, and 52 House Democrats were less liberal than the most liberal Republican, according to the analysis. But that zone of ideological overlap began to shrink. Since 2002, there has been no overlap at all between the least liberal Democrats and the least conservative Republicans in the House. In the Senate, the end of overlap came in 2004 when Democrat Zell Miller of Georgia retired. Ever since, the gaps between the least conservative Republicans and the least liberal Democrats in both the House and Senate have widened, making it ever less likely that there's any common ground to find. Close quote. Now, Pew tries to blame Republicans for moving further to the right than Democrats have moved to the left. But they contradict themselves when they observe that Senator Zell Miller, the Democrat from Georgia, was the last conservative Democrat in the Senate. In any event, Kyrsten Sinema is no Zell Miller. Nor is she all that popular. 37% approval rating, according to an AARP survey, to which I've also left a link in the description. And those numbers hold across the board. Her fellow Democrats don't like her much better than do Republicans. And independents, not only do they approve of her not but 41% of the time, but also, and worse, they don't even move the average. In short, she was going to get primaried anyway. Running as an independent would avoid that. But now it turns out that turns the 2024 Senate race into a three-way race, and a race she will likely lose to a Republican, because unlike Alaska, Arizona does not have ranked choice voting. Link in the description of the article to the short thread in which Kyrsten Sinema states her reasons, to her piece in the Arizona Republic stating them in greater detail, to Domenico Montanaro's NPR piece, to Rebecca Cohen's Business Insider piece, to Sinema saying that alternative lifestyles are normal, to that AARP survey showing her low approval ratings in every demographic, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to oursilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and a link to other videos about her independent status, and to my Jim Baker video in which I define kabuki theater. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.